Well, welcome back to my garden. It's been a couple of weeks. Last week was a busy and, as you will hear, a troubled week. Busy in a good way. I had an exhibition that went very well, sold a few pieces, had wonderful exchanges about my work, and it really does make it worth doing. I mean, you need to show your work, you need to get it out there. But as I say, it was a tough week because it didn't begin well. Sadly, on Sunday night, my dog wasn't one of my, we have four. Our littlest dog wasn't feeling too well, wasn't behaving like her normal self. Monday, she wasn't eating. And Tuesday, when I went outside, she was sort of lying on the ground, unable to move. I put her in my lap and spent the next 2 hours watching her slowly slip away. So as much as I wanted to make a film last week, I thought, actually, I'd like to talk about this. But I would have just been blubbering. It really was very, very emotional, in a way that I hadn't anticipated. And in a way that was quite interesting, viewing it with a certain amount of detachment. And actually, I've got a couple of observations, but I'm going to start with that one. It may be that this spills over into a small series on lessons my dog taught me, or maybe this will exhaust it. We'll just have to wait and see. So, after the sad passing of Sid, our little dog, it struck me that I was upset, saddened in a way that, and this is going to sound terrible, I suspect, wasn't true of the passing of my father or my mother. And I was wondering about that. I mean, it's not that I didn't love my father and mother, I did. And it's not that I wasn't sad. But on reflection, I think I can explain it in the following way. I once read a very interesting article on the BBC website where someone was talking about research that had shown that when we make that deep, powerful eye contact with our dogs, brain imaging has shown that we're engaging our brain in the same way we do when we look at our baby. Well, I don't have a baby, but you know what I mean. It's exactly the same. So the passing of your little dog isn't really like the passing of your parent, an entity that has become your friend over a long period of time. It is like the passing of an infant child. Even if your dog has lived to a ripe old age. Sid was 7, so I suppose she was middle-aged. But from the perspective of neuroscience, my relationship with that dog was like the relationship with a young child. And losing a young child, I can only imagine. I mean, I know, I sympathise, I think I could sort of understand a friend of mine lost a child, cot death kind of situation. And it was appalling. It was, and I'm not trying to suggest that the way I felt about losing my dog was anything like that. Of course not. But it's the connection, and in one way in which the loss of our little dog was like that was it was sudden and unexpected, and not unexpected in a sort of violent, tragic way, in an inexplicable sort of way. It was a bit like cot death, but as I say, obviously nowhere near as gut-wrenching. But part of the sadness was mitigated by the thought that we gave that little dog our love and a good home for the 7 years she was with us. And she joined us as we guess, about a 3-month-old pup. And I say we guess because we didn't really know for certain. And there's a story behind all of that. Her name, Sid, is a contraction for Aparecida, which is Portuguese for appeared. Brazil is a powerfully, although not uniquely, Catholic country. And there's all sorts of Nossa Senhoras, Our Ladies, and saints. They abound, proliferate. And Nossa Senhora da Aparecida is an iconic statue of the Mother Mary that appeared in a river or something. I don't know the whole story. It's not really, as I believe you know, it's not really my scene, but very, very important figure in Brazilian Catholicism. And why did our little dog gain her name? Well, because she appeared. We came home, some friends were staying, we came home from the village and we heard a little whimpering, went round to investigate, and there was this little puppy. We looked at the small footsteps, and she appeared because someone had thrown her over the wall. And my first thought of all that was, how appalling. The ego centric me is like, why have you done this to me? We already have 3 dogs. It's quite enough. We didn't ask for this, and we didn't accept it. You didn't offer. You just threw it over the wall. What sort of barbaric activity is that? But this is the first very powerful lesson that I learned early on from my dog Cidinha. Because we can reframe that, and that's what I did. I thought, well, I can't go around resenting the presence of this dog. We have to look after her. And she's a cute little thing, as all puppies are. So how can I reframe the situation? And I thought about it, that, what at first seemed to be an act of cruelty might be more like Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. This may sound a bit weird, and bear with me, let me explain. The hunter who is instructed to do away with Snow White takes her out into the forest and sort of abandons her, as it were. Is that how the story goes? Honestly, I can't remember the story of Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. Hi ho, hi ho. That's it. But I do know that Snow White was abandoned by her assassin, and I think later found by a hunter or someone, who knows. I don't know, I can't remember the story. But the point was, she wasn't killed as she was supposed to be, and perhaps that's what happened to our little dog. Someone was instructed to kill this puppy. They didn't have the heart, and they thought, what can I do? It needs looking after. I know that big soft chump, Neil, if I just pop it over the wall. I've offered a dog before. Now I say that because I think I know who put the dog over the wall, and they had offered a puppy to us before, and we said, well, we can't take it. We've already got 3. I'm sorry, find another home. So maybe that's what happened. They thought, I know you said you couldn't, but I just don't know what to do. So here goes, over the wall she goes. And she turned out to be a gift that kept on giving until she didn't, sadly. And this idea of reframing, I mean, we can use it in so many different ways. Someone cuts you up in traffic, speeding past you. You slam on the brakes, hoot and start cursing. But make up a little story. Perhaps they're taking a loved one to the hospital. Perhaps you taking evasive action has enabled them in a moment of monumental desperation to get their loved one to the hospital just in the nick of time. You're a lifesaver. Now, perhaps you're listening to all that and saying, for heaven's sake, what drivel. You can't go around making up mad stories to explain away every bit of unfortunate news or trouble that you face in a day. And you can't, or, well, can you? And what happened if you did? What happened if you found a nice way of thinking about it? The bad stuff that happens to you all day long, a way that put you and people around you in a good light. Now, I know what you're saying, and I know what you're thinking, but sometimes that someone's doing something and there is no good reason. You understand the situation all too well, and there's nothing, life-saving about it. It's someone just being a bit of a bastard. Well, in that case, the best you can do is feel compassion. That poor creature is in the world, suffering, and they have been driven to behave this way. I mean, that's how we saw our little dog. She was, unlike our other 3 dogs, quite vicious in the way she defended food. Very aggressive. But the poor mite, she'd possibly been starving to death. Her foibles came about because of perhaps a violent entry into the world, an unsettling, disturbing entry into the world. And even though she was very happy here, she carried those sort of battle scars with her. And that's a way you can look at people that are behaving badly or doing you harm, yourself included. Be forgiving, be compassionate. Try and find the best way of looking at a situation. And I think, if we can manage that, it's not easy. I struggle, of course I do. I mean, this is not easy. But if we can manage that, well, the world, and in particular our world, will be a slightly nicer place. And in a roundabout sort of way, that's a lesson my little dog taught me. I'll come back with another one next week. Until then, I hope you're feeling happy, your lives are filled with joy, the world is treating you with abundance, and from sunny Brazil, ciao.